Hey guys, how's everybody? Welcome to all you newcomers. If this is your first time to the channel, I welcome you to subscribe. If you guys, I'd never ask, but if you smash the thumbs up button, it helps get these videos out where other folks may see them. Kind of just helps with the rating of the video. And everybody's always welcome to comment if they want to. If you have any questions, I always do my best to try to answer a question. I always try to do my best to at least respond to your comment in some form or fashion. If it's just smashing a little heart button or thumbs up, in most cases it's both. Again, welcome to everybody. This little 455, I'm not going to lie to any of you guys, it's gave me a fit ever since I tore it down. I bought it as a used saw off a gentleman flea market. It started and ran there. It didn't run well. I could tell it had a little bit of problems. I got it home and was able to tune any issue it had out of it enough to make some cuts, but as far as field testing it or anything, it never happened. Saw looks good cosmetically, it looks like a new saw. I had what looked like about a new Oregon. I think it was a 16 or 18 bar on it, full comp, full chisel chain. It was a pretty nice setup for the saw, good firewood setup. But I bought it for the channel because it was a decent deal on it. I give that old man 110 bucks for it. Starting around on 455, that ain't nothing to complain about at all. So I had all intentions of tearing it down and porting it. I was honestly just gonna do a muffler mod in time in advance. I kind of wish that's where I would have just left things. I was online getting parts. I buy stuff from the Duke a lot. Ain't sponsored or anything, but I just like to mention where I get good parts. When I find good parts, if you're looking for good aftermarket parts, that's a good place to go. There was, we had pop-up pistons for them, and the guy really liked his pistons. They're moly coated. We ain't had a problem. So, we ordered one. I was like, well, crap, I'll pull it down, port it, put that piston in it, leave the exhaust roof where it lays. Which it had good timing numbers on it anyway, just right out of the gate. They've got a low roof, short blowdown. Intake side of things was just a little lazy, but it wasn't bad either. I didn't add a whole lot of duration to it, but I put it back together. The carburetor that was on it, that they had on it, that's what the old man told me. They'd put a carburetor. There was stuff on it, wire tied together. It was Chinese carb, just a nightmare. But put all of that aside. There was other issues, but the simple man, I talked to him and he sent us a parts unit up, which I think that saw's fixable too. We may get into that later on, but and I got some parts I needed. I did end up buying a few new parts, but you guys seen me pull the 3 bolts out of that, or screws. They're big fat self-tapping screws. On this carburetor, there's a little lever. If you ain't got real strong hands or you actually care about your body and skin and things, you might want to take a little pair of needle nose. You pull that up, it's got a little hole that there's a little like tid on it sets in. You pull that up, swing it out, and your throttle linkage is that easy just to come right up out of it. And then your handle assembly is ready to pull off. And I'm going to warn you, when you pull it up, there's 2 AV buffers under here. They're rubber, they're small. If they fall off and hit your floor and you've got work benches, they may be hard to find. And those little things are not cheap at all to buy. I don't know of anyone that makes them aftermarket, but just to warn them, they could fall out. This ain't really a how-to. You guys know I don't do a lot of that anymore, but it's more along the lines just to help someone out. You seen the title, we're gonna pull the carburetor off. I'm gonna put a kit in it. But anyway, back to the saw. I had some air leaks I found after pulling the whole daggone thing apart. For some reason, we're not wanting to come up out of the chassis of the saw. I know I took all 3 screws out. I took one here, should be one here. We've indeed got it out. Maybe we don't. I may have pulled the cover screw out a bit. That's exactly what we done. When you sit and talk and you don't pay attention, somebody's probably like, oh God, I'm not following this guy. He just took her own screw out. I don't blame you at all. That was embarrassing. We'll just leave that in. We pulled our own screw out. But look, guys, they're within an inch of one another. You've got to give me a break. We want to leave that in. The top cover, there's a recoil cover. There's no need to take that off for what we're doing. But the easiest way I found to do this is right here. You'll see this is protruding through. Honestly, you'd think there would be an AV mount or something, but there's not. If you get that wiggled up out of there, lay your engine assembly to the side, pick it up, there's a spring in the back, twist just like so, and I'll give you a look at that all in just a second. And your engine's that simple, it'll wiggle right out. These rubber bushings, they just slide right off. If you've ever worked on a 350, hell, anything up from a 340 up to a 359 uses those. There's some larger saws have them as well. You know, Husky don't slouch on AV stuff. They do rubber and springs even back on the older saws. But there's a spring on the back of that handle. I doubt I'll assemble going back together. Just pay attention as I'm pulling it apart. Sits back in this channel. It's a little tricky to get it all wiggled in, but if you hold your breath just right, you can get it done with ease. The next thing, we need to wiggle it up. You have I've already torn this thing completely down on one video, but doing a carb video may get it out there a little more. But there's a AV buffer here, one over here. It's just to hold this assembly tight. I ain't gonna lie to you, they're a pain to get back in. Just take a pick, pull straight up on them, and back on this on each side, and you can get them to go back in. They're not real bad fighting with them, but they're not the simplest thing in the world either. And then your kill switch wiring, you want to pull it off. You have one up top, then you have one right here. It kind of lays in sideways. You can't miss how it goes in. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just get you a good light and put on it, and use your reading glasses if you need them, and you'll see that little channel where it goes down into place. And everything on these is about like every other Husky. It's just the M4 Allen. We should have 2 up here. You can take those out. I probably could have used the gun on those. Magnetic trays are really helpful. I have them laying everywhere on every bench. If I'm working on a vehicle, I have them laying up under the hood. I'm gonna get into something a little different in a day or two. I do a review every now and then on stuff I buy. I bought a transmission jack from Harbor Freight. It's just a small, cheap one. I'm going to unbox it, put it together, and we're going to see how it handles the transmission in my daughter's Silverado. I started on that project last week, and I bought one of those transmission jacks that sat down in the top of a floor jack, and it wouldn't work on either of the ones I had, so I wound up using that thing for something else. Then by the time I got and bought a jack, bad weather had set in, and it rained and was cold, and truck's sitting outside, and needless to say, it just kind of got put to the side. But okay, back to the saw. I get off topic a little bit, but maybe it makes it to where these videos ain't so daggone boring. You got a line comes out of the tank. This is your return for the purge, and that's all this is. It's a purge. Start the saw when it's cold. If it's been sitting, you know, you want to purge it, get some fresh fuel into the carb. If you don't know, in the summertime, if you've got one that vapor locks, don't want to start back, purge it a few times. You're not going to flood it. It's just moving fuel through the meter and chamber of the carburetor, and, you know, keep fresh fuel into the carb. Fresh, cool charge of fuel. If any of that makes any bit of sense at all. And then you got a fuel line down here. When you go to put the saw back together, that one can be a little bit of a pain. If you've got a little pair of hemostats or a little pair of needle nose pliers, it's pretty easy to get in there and work that thing back up on. And I had a little bit of Moto seal on that. It's totally unneeded. It's a rubber sealed surface, but you know, I was hunting air leaks. Back to that, it ended up being this flange down here. It is not cheap to buy. You're looking at anywhere from 16 to over 20 bucks, depending on where you get it. And that one's an OEM Husky one. The one that was originally on the saw, screw was stripped out over here. The second one I put on it off parts saw, the impulse was melted and cracked and had an air leak there. I tore the whole saw down here on camera, thinking I might have missed or messed something up, gluing the cylinder back in or putting it back together, and honestly it ended up just being a dang carburetor flange causing the whole issue. None of us are perfect. You're gonna miss stuff, you're gonna have mistakes. But anyway, I'm going to set this down out of the way, and we're going to fool with this carburetor. I've got a new Walbro kit. I'll show you it. It's not cheap. The cheapest one I found was like 23 bucks once it's said and done. You get Chinese ones all over eBay, but you're just getting a Chinese piece of shit, basically, on carb kits. And I know some people will disagree with that, but you gotta have a good source for aftermarket parts. You can't just buy the cheapest thing out there. And guys, there's the kit you need. Hopefully the GoPro's picking it up. Need a Phillips head screwdriver. I hope the one I got out will do. We're just gonna do a simple rebuild here and clean. I got the saw running good, and no sooner than I went out I barred it up and went to go out and cut, and lo and behold, act like a pump diaphragm either went or got weak, or I don't know, something could have stopped up. It was in the carburetor. Just really went to starving for fuel. I might have to get a better Phillips head than this. This one's a little big for that. Let me pause you guys and do that. See if that works a little better. I guess you'd call it a number 1. That one was probably a number 3 I was using. I never got too carried away into the sizes of them. I know all your sheetrock screws and stuff and wood screws usually use number 3. I buy a lot of those. I'd say that diaphragm's just gone. It just worn out. Meter and chamber still looks clean. I'll pull it off, give you guys a little look at it. These are pretty self-explanatory. These 2 little alignment dowels here, you set the diaphragm on, then the gasket, then the diaphragm. Your gasket always goes first, then the diaphragm. So what the pulse of the saw works this little lever. Just basically regulates how much fuel's coming into this chamber and filling up that the saw can use at a given time, if that makes any sense. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull the other side off, and we'll have a look at it. I wish this thing would zoom. I told my wife I probably should have brought the big camera out to video this. I've spent a fortune in cameras, and I don't know, I just don't bring them out and use them. I should. The quality of the videos would be better. It'd help people better. You guys get it, you know how it is if you're a creator. All of this looks good. That one's a little stretched. See how it's indented? That's usually just from setting. This carburetor had actually come off the parts saw, so that's probably our problem there. This is your pump diaphragm. When the saw piston goes up and down, you get a pulse through the impulse line, and that's why it's called impulse or impulse channel. Some saws don't have a line. Your case pressure in the saw works all of that. It's like a little mini vacuum fuel pump, or a pulse pump you would call it. And you know, it pulls saw. Every time the engine makes a revolution up and down, it'll pulse, and it's pulling fuel out of the tank up into the pump chamber, and then the meter and lever will mash down. Fuel will come up through the meter and lever, or through the needle valve. Meter and lever will go down, needle valve opens, chamber fills full of fuel. If you've ever used one of those old hand pump kerosene pumps, just kind of think of that. You're pumping, it's pumping and moving. It's not like a continuous deal, but if that makes any sense to you at all, that's kind of how these carburetors function. Then there's other passages. When you know, your main jet and your jets here, when the engine piston goes up, it sucks, pulls air charge through the venturi, and you know, you get your atomization through the jets. I know there's videos and things can explain it a lot better than that, but it's in a nutshell kind of how it works. I guess what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pause you guys and get some cleaner and pull the high and low jet out. We're going to spray it out. This thing was not flooding or anything. I'll probably change the inlet screen. I'll take you guys off the camera and give you a look at that. Like I said, I wished I'd have used a different camera. We could have set right up on this. I could have explained things better. Inlet screen. If you've got one that's starving for fuel, acting like it's got an air leak, but you can't find an air leak, usually this thing's stopped up. This one don't look bad. I'll probably put the new one in it, but you can pull those, clean them with your cleaner. If they're glazed over, or varnished over rather, they can cause a lean issue, cause you all kinds of problems. But that's what we're going to do. I'm going to pause you guys and get these jets out. I'm going to spray it out, and I'll bring you back. Steel screwdriver on the Husqvarna carb. When I bought that new 362, and there should be several videos on that you guys are welcome to watch. There was a box of these on the desk at Rural King with steel safety glasses, and my wife was going to buy them. Said how many? She just got a bunch of them, because I'm always griping about not having a tuning screwdriver, and I've lost a handful of these already. A lot of them probably end up in the laundry room, I'd imagine, but oh, guys, like, you just bought a $900 chainsaw, so just take all of those you want. So we probably got a dozen of them, free of charge. They probably made enough on that saw, and then some to cover the cost of those. But I'm gonna blow these jets out. I don't think this carburetor's really that dirty by any means. It was running awful good, and then just I've even went ahead and flushed fuel tank out on it. And that's one thing, if your saw is full of gas, crack the fuel cap. This thing's clear. It is clear. I'd turn it towards you guys, but I don't know what these chemicals in this will do if it hit the screen of that GoPro. I know what they do to prescription glasses. It ain't a good thing. That daggone thing pretty clean. I'll probably pull that screen out and just put the new one in. You want to check your impulse hole and make sure it's clear. On this one, it should be down here. We're spraying stuff everywhere. I'd say it's good. Here's that one. I'd say it was that one. There went my straw on the floor. Okay guys, so one more step I'm going to do off camera, mainly because I don't want to hurt anyone's ears or just have a bunch of racket on cameras. I'm going to take my air hose, and don't go full force with your air hose. You mess things up. Just really light pressure squeeze on your just on your trigger or whatever you got. Just light pressure. That's all it takes. If you've even got one of those little cans that you use to do like computers or things or keyboards, it may be even best to use one of those. So blowed the impulse channel out. That's something you want to clean, which is here. And you would think it would come out here in this hole, but not on this one. It's channeled all the way out and comes over all the way out of this hole. Impulse is over here, but if you go back to the saw down here, I hadn't really paid a lot of attention, but the impulse channel is down there to the far corner of the bottom of that boot. I just thought I'd show you guys that. I'll bring you back when we've got some gaskets laid on and we're going back together. Okay guys, so I've got that old screen out. What I like to do is you can hold the meter and lever down over here, and you should be able to easily spray your carb cleaner or parts cleaner through there. I don't recommend taking an air hose and blowing high pressure air through, but if the passage is clear, you should be able to get carb cleaner to spray down that. Got our new screen in, guys. I actually just took the end of this razor blade knife, got it started with my fingers, and then pushed it down in there. Nice clean new screen. Again, if you're having trouble with one, you put diaphragms in it, or the diaphragms check good and it's running a little lean, check there. Those things are usually varnished over. You can take a pick, dig them out, clean them, put them back in. You do have to kind of pull them out and blow back through them with your carb cleaner, if that makes sense to you, but most decent carb kits will have that screen in it. Okay guys, I'm not going to be, like I said, I wish I would have used a different camera. This cover, your gasket's going to go on first. I've done peeled the old gasket off. Luckily it just came right off. Then you have your pump diaphragm. It'll lay right on top of that, and then if you do everything just right, you can get it to lay back onto the base of the carburetor and put your one screw in it. That's what I'm going to do next, and I'll bring you guys back and I'll show you the next step after that. I would video, but you're just not going to be able to see it, just my hands fidgeting around. So if we get it all just right, hopefully it'll just lay right into place. It'll drop down in, and we got our screw. Like I said, I highly doubt you guys can see any of that. Put your screw back in. You're usually flat head, or you can use either usually. Get it good and tight. It's got that side of things put back together. I did put the needles back in for the high and low jet off camera. The specs on these do say to set them out to 2.5 full turns. That's where we've got it right now, which is really off from anything I'm used to working on. But it is a Stratos saw, meaning this top port's just air. That's all that's coming through the ports is just fresh air. Okay, on the meter and diaphragm, your gasket always goes first. I say that, but if you're working on an old Tillotson HL, things are a little backwards, but you kind of gotta have to look at how those things work. I'm completely off topic again, but these are easy. They have the alignment dials. Makes things super simple to do. If you're working with an older carb that doesn't, just use Vaseline or some clean grease to hold things into place. Nothing wrong with it. Your fuel mix, if any gets on the carb, will just wash it right through. But just make sure what you're using is clean. And again, the needle valve, on this one I'm choosing not to change it. I'd have to pull the whole faceplate off the carb and all before I could get in there and be able to do it. It wasn't flooding or anything. It just, you know, it was a lean issue. If you've got one that's sticking and flooding and cleaning it doesn't fix it, you may have to change the needle valve. A lot of the times that seat's just worn out if you've taken one and ran it so far that it needs a new needle valve. There's a screw there, Phillips head, you'd remove it. You don't have to take it all the way out. Let me get it up here in the light, and then there's a little bitty rod goes through it. You slide that over, and then there's a little spring under that metering lever. You don't want to lose it. Most of the kits do not come with that. Just be wary of that. You don't want to lose that, and they will jump out. But when you get it out and go to change it, you can put a little grease in the hole the spring sets in. Set it down in there at the pick, and you know, usually things will drop right in and go your way. But again, on this one, I'm choosing not to fool with it a lot because it's daggone tiny and I don't have to. Okay guys, the only other thing I done is and my hands would have been in the way. We may do this in another video on something else with a better camera setup. This thing video is good. It's a GoPro Hero 10. Just light years above the older GoPros. I have several of them, but it's not a up close and detail carb rebuild camera. I see guys set up their phones and do this stuff. I don't know. I've got a new phone. I could have tried that, I guess. But again, I get off topic. You'll have to forgive me. But the wide part on this goes up the top where your dials are at. There's no dials in the cap. That may help you if you're fidgeting around trying to get it on, but the wide section of it lays up to this side where the dials are at. But that's kind of got that rebuilt in a nutshell. Hopefully the next thing you guys see is this thing running. Okay guys, before I start this back up, you know, we're an honest channel here. I like to show you guys everything. I ain't perfect at this, no one is, but the whole time I'd put this back together, and there was, you know, some air leaks. It wasn't bad, but it was enough to make the saw where it wouldn't idle. It'd want to race up. But we went over that. I showed you I put that new flange on it, but a lot of the issue with the saw was right here. And you know, I bought this, I should have known better. There was pieces of fuel line in the tank when I flushed the tank out. I was trying to eliminate everything, but visually inspecting the line, it looked good top and bottom. the culprit was here where it went through a grommet in the tank. I don't know if it's factory that way, but it is swelled completely shut here. I'm assuming when I prime it, it was running. I saw wood setting idle, but when you went full throttle with it, she went extremely lean every time. And somehow when I got this saw, it would run and run good enough to make cuts. It seemed weaker than it should have been. It didn't seem to run nowhere near as good as the last 455 I had did, so I'm assuming she's been starving for fuel ever since I got it. So hopefully something else don't happen. This thing's been a nightmare, and as you can see, it is a dang good looking saw. Looks like new. It probably just set is why they replaced the carb, and evidently someone had been messing with fuel lines, but evidently it has a rev limiter. Did have a black coil on it when I tore it down. Those usually ain't limited, but that's the best she sounded since I've had her here. But anyway, you know, this wasn't a how-to. Sorry if it was longer than it needed to be or bored you to death, but maybe it'll help someone. I'm pretty tickled here with it now, and that's always a good thing. We can get it out and use it some. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Y'all stay safe. Everyone have a great day.